G'day and welcome to another video. In today's lesson we will learn how to make this hat. It can be worn normally, you can push it back off your face for more of a slouch, or we can make the hat longer for a proper slouch hat. It is really easy and classed as a beginner's project. Hope you enjoy it and let's get started on the lesson. Today's project is brought to you by redheart.com. For the video tutorial I used Red Heart Super Saver and it is in the colour pumpkin. And for my green slouch hat I used Red Heart Soft in colour guacamole. For our supplies we're going to need a yarn needle with a large eye, a crochet hook that goes with our yarn. I'm using worsted weight yarn so I need a 5.5mm or an eye size hook. You can use 8-ply yarn for this, you can basically use any yarn that you like. As long as you're using the crochet hook that you normally use with that yarn. You're going to need a pair of scissors and of course your yarn to work with. So we're going to make a slip knot. There's plenty of different ways to do that. And then we are going to make a chain that is the height of the hat that we need. Now if you don't know the height that we need, I will put a link below that goes to some head size charts and that will give you a fair indication. Now for myself, I need a hat height of approximately 9 to 10 inches. Another way you could do it was make a chain that goes from the bottom of your ear to the top of your head. So we're just going to make a chain. You don't need to count. If you wanted to make another one you might want to count your chains and write them down, and that will give you a great indication when you make your next hat to fit. It's always important to keep notes because when you try to make it again you've got to try and remember what you did. So if you write it all down with what you're making, the size hook, yarn and everything like that, it helps quite a bit. So we're just going to keep making our chain. So I've made my chain and it's approximately the height that I need it, which is 10 inches. And I've actually done 41 chains just in case you were wondering. So put that aside. And this can be adjusted really easy. So on this hat, oh, and also a very important tip, if you want to make a slouch hat, add more chains. So depending on how slouchy you want it will depend on how many chains you'll want to add on. So if you want it to just be a little bit slouchy at the back, maybe add an inch or two. If you wanted it really slouchy, maybe add sort of like 3 or 4 extra inches to your chain. Because that's the green one is what is a slouch hat. And this is the brim, obviously, because it's where the opening is. And this is where we use the half double crochet. So my brim is around about an inch wide, and I did my half double crochets there. So I've done like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half double crochets, and then the main body of the hat is double crochet, and at the top here it is single crochet. So depending on how wide you want your band, and if you don't want a band, don't do any half double crochets at all. Start with the double crochet. But I wanted a band. That makes the hat a little bit baggy because the band is tight on your head and the double crochet is a bigger stitch, like a taller stitch. So it's going to be bigger in the rows when we sew it together. So this bit's more narrow than that part is there. So if you don't want it baggy, don't do the half double crochet rows. Only do don't do the half double crochet, only do the double crochet rows. So you will double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook instead of what we do for the half double crochet, which is the 2nd chain from the hook. Alright, so of course up here I think it was 5 single crochets again. So what we can do is you could make that single crochet section, see it's only about that wide, it's probably about an inch as well. You can make that wider. The single crochet section at the top will be tighter because it's a smaller stitch again. Okay, so that's just a little bit of added info for that hat. I wanted it to be a little bit baggy, sort of slouchy, so I made the double crochet in the main section and had the tighter brim. But of course, like I said, if you don't want the tight bit with the bagginess, start with the double crochet instead of a half double. So if you're starting with the double crochet, you're going to double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. But if you're using a half double crochet like we've done in the sample, we're going to go into the 2nd chain from the hook. And we don't count the chain that's on our hook because we just don't. That's why. This is the first one and that is the second one. So half double crochet, which is wrapping your yarn, going into the chain, yarning over, and then pull through all 3. And we want to make 5 half double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Oh, and also, if you're a beginner, you may want to use some stitch markers and place a stitch marker into that stitch that we just did, because when we come back we have to actually see where to do the other half double crochets into here. And if you haven't been crocheting long, they may all look exactly the same to you. So I would recommend, if you haven't had much experience, put a stitch marker into the stitch that we just did, which is in there. Oh, I do have one laying about, so we can put that in there. And now we're going to make the main section of the hat, so that is double crochet. Oh, and also this hat could work as well if you want to do half double crochet for the actual main section, like all the way across, so you wouldn't have a band, you would have the whole hat in half double crochet, and then we'd do single crochet at the other end. So that would work as well. So okay, so we're doing a double crochet, so that's, sorry, I'm talking too much. Wrapping our yarn, going into the stitch, pulling up 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to assume that you already know how to do the double crochet, so we're going to continue on working double crochets all the way across, but we want to stop 5 stitches or 5 chains from the end. Of course, if you want to adjust the amount of single crochets we're making at the end, and the single crochets are the top of the hat, you can adjust that to make more or less. It's up to you. Okay, so I'm going to turn the camera off because you're going to get bored watching me do all those stitches, and I'm going to stop about 5 chains from the end. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains left, and what we're going to do is work single crochet into all those stitches. So going into the chain, working a single crochet, and we're going to work this all the way across. Oh, and also, like I said, if you're a beginner, you can add a stitch marker to your first single crochet that we did. Oh, I do have 2 stitch markers. I'm in luck. So we just did 3. So 1, 2, 3. Put your stitch marker there. I personally don't need the stitch markers. I've done so many stitches over the 11 years that I've been teaching that I can tell the difference. But if I'm not paying attention, like watching TV or talking, I will not realise what I'm supposed to be doing. Like that, doing a half double crochet instead of a single. Okay, so we just single crochet all the way. And at the moment it looks like nothing but some sort of freaky looking worm. So the half double crochet is up here, that's the brim. This is the main section of the hat. And then this is the top of the hat where we gather it together. So what we want to do now is chain 1. And the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. The chaining on any of this hat doesn't actually count as a stitch. I find that if we don't count it as a stitch and actually work a stitch into it, like what I'm about to show you, it gives it a nicer edge. So normally the chain 1 would count as a stitch and we'd crochet into here. I don't do that because I'm a rebel and I go against the rules. We're going to go into here and work a single crochet. Now the first stitch on each row and the last stitch on each row is worked through both loops. I find this gives it a neater edge and it's more firmer and not flimsy, but every other stitch that's on this project is worked in the back loop. So looking at your work, if you turn it towards you, front loop is here. This is the front loop. And the back loop is at the back. So it's that one there. So we're going to work into there. So going into that back loop and we're working a single crochet. Now there's 5 single crochets. So that was 1. We just did number 2. Back loops. 3. Back loop. 4. And with a bit of luck, where our stitch marker is will be number 5. So we can pull that out. And work a single crochet. Put your stitch marker back in there. Then we're working double crochet because we're back to the double crochet section, so yarning over, going into the back loop, working our double crochet. So we're going to work this all the way across until we get to our stitch marker, which will be our last 5 stitches. If you don't want that ribbed look on the hat, you are more than welcome to go through both loops, and that will not give you the ribbed look. So let me just grab the slouchy version that I did. See how, I don't know if you can tell this on camera, but see how there's like ridges? Can you see that? Can you see the ridges? There's one there, here, and here. That is what happens when you go the back loop. If you don't want those ridges and you just want it nice and flat and not neat, I don't know what the word is, but if you just want it nice and flat, don't go through the back loop, go through both loops, and you'll have just this effect here, this part here, where it's nice and smooth, and you won't have these ridges. So double crochet across until we get to our stitch marker. And I apologise if I'm talking too much. I just like to give you as much information as I can into the one video. When we get to our stitch marker, we're going to take it out, and we're going to work a half double crochet. That back in. And a little tip, if you can't tell the difference between the half double crochet end and the single crochet end, the bit where your tail is, if you use the chaining method like we just used in the video to start with, the one with the tail on the end is your single crochet end. Okay, so if you can remember that, you should be able to, so if you get up here and there's no tail, we're doing half double crochet. But try to challenge yourself. If you're a beginner, try to challenge yourself to look at the stitch and see if you can recognise what the stitch is. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and when we get to the end, we're going to do our stitch through both loops. Now, the back loop would have been here, but we're going to go through both loops, so we're going through the front and the back. Got 2 on there, and working a half double crochet. Now a half double crochet stitch, so you can tell the difference if you don't know what it looks like. It has like this twisty bit, you know, because that's like a technical term. You've got the bit that comes down there, and then you've got that little bit that goes across, and then there's a little bit that goes down. I hope you can see that. But a single crochet doesn't have that. It's only got 2 bits that go down. See how there's no bit going across? You've only got like a bit going down here. It almost looks like a V, or 2 straight bits. There's one there and one there. Of course the single crochet is smaller, but if you go back over here, see how it's a lot bigger. Let's see if we can get them side by side. it's taller. Oh, this is gonna be hard. Stay. Aha. It's got a straight bit, a bit that goes sideways, and then a little tiny bit that goes down. Where over here you've got two straight bits. And I'm sure if you're a beginner, you're looking at it going, what? What is she talking about? But it does take practice. It will take you a while to recognise the stitches when you don't actually know what you did. If you can't remember what you did, it'll take a while just to recognise them, but you will get it. So chaining one, turning our work around, and because we haven't got a tail on the end, we're still doing our half double crochet. So if you put your work down and come back to it, you'll know what you're up to. So going through the first stitch, going through both loops, and then working your half double crochet through the back loop. So that's 4, removing your stitch marker. For number 5, putting it back. Whoops. And then we're on to our double crochet. So back loops only for our double crochet. So what we do is we repeat these 2 rows, because one row will start with a half double crochet like this one, and then your next row will start with a single crochet because you'll be working up the other end of our work. That's extremely close. So keep doing your double crochet until we get to our stitch marker. Okay, so I've already taken my stitch marker out, and we're up to our tail end, so we know it's single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep. So single crochet, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and our 5th one is through both loops only. Both loops only. It's through both loops. Oh dear. There we go. And we need to chain 1, turn our work. And because it's our first or our last stitch, whichever way you want to look at it, it's our first stitch here, we want to work through both loops. And then our second stitch is our back loop. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Put our stitch marker back. And I had to add some more yarn in, so I've got to sew in those ends later. And then we're going to half double. I swear my tongue is not in properly today. We're going to double crochet all the way across till we get to our stitch marker, and I'm going to catch up with you when we're up to here. So we're up to our stitch marker, and there's no tail on the end, so we know it's a half double crochet end. So wrapping our yarn, going into the back loops only. And as you get more rows done, you'll actually be able to tell which end is the single crochet end, because it will be narrower. This bit will be wider up here than the other end. But when you first sort of do the first 3 rows, it's a bit hard to tell. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and our last one is through both loops. Alright, so what we need to do now is repeat those rows. Oh, I didn't put my stitch marker back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, repeat those 2 rows. So this next row will start with half double crochet and finish with single crochet. The row after that will start with single crochet because we're going back across. Then you'll do your double crochet and then back to your half double crochet. And keep going, and using the chart that's on my website, which I will put a link below in the description box, it'll show you how the circumference that you need to make if you're not sure on the size of the head that you're making it for. But if you already know the size of the head that you need to make it for, you will keep making more rows until the half double crochet end is the measurement that you need, because this is going to be, the top bit is a smaller section, but that's the gathered section, so that won't matter. This bit is going around your head. It's smaller. If you've used the half double crochet, it's smaller than the double crochet. You can almost start to see how it's narrower here than it is up here. So this will be what you need to measure, that part there, not the double crochet. So keep going, and I will catch up with you when we've done a lot more rows. So now that you've got yours wide enough, you can see that the single crochet at the top is more narrow than the part down the bottom with the half double crochet down here. So you're going to measure your half double crochet down here, and I'm going to measure mine. And you're going to need to stretch it out, because you're going to need to stretch it out. It is really easy if you're making it for yourself, because you can just wrap it around your head. But stretching it out, because don't forget that this is the bend on your hat, so you're going to have to stretch it. Don't stretch it too much, but you know, stretch it reasonable. And mine is 57 centimetres, and my head is actually 58 centimetres, so that's pretty much right, because it's going to stretch a little tiny bit more when I'm wearing it. So that's right for me. So now you're going to say, how many rows did I do? I will count them and come back in a second. I have done 40 rows on my hat, and that fits me, which is, my head's about 58 centimetres. I don't know what that is in inches. I think it's about 21 or something. No, it's about 22 and a half. So my head's about 58, so it's just under 23 inches. Lucky I wasn't making it 21, it wouldn't fit me. So I've done 40 rows, and of course everyone's got different tensions, so I would highly recommend measuring yours. And what we need to do is, we need to finish our row on the half double crochet end. Okay, so this is my half double crochets here, and that is my single crochet up there. You want to finish on a half double crochet end, because when we sew it together, it works out better. I tried to do it before when we ended on the single crochet end, and when you sew it together, you can tell if there's not enough ridges, there's like a small gap. Okay, so you can slip stitch it together, but I'm actually going to sew it together. So finding your scissors, cut off about at least 12 inches. I would say more like 14 inches of yarn, which is about 35 centimetres, I think. Okay, so laying it together, so we fold it in half, so that's what our hat looks like. Single crochets up there and half double crochet down here. So I've threaded my needle, and what we need to do is, if you haven't already finished off, just put your needle through that loop to finish off. When we sew it together, because we want to keep, if you've got the ridgy bit, you chose to do the back loops, we need to keep the ridge effect so that when you sew it together you can't really tell that you've sewn it together. But if you haven't decided to do the ridging, then you'll go through both loops. But because we need to create a fake rib, we're going to use the outside loops. So I'm going to say outside because this is the inside and that's the inside when we're looking at it. And this is the outside one and this is the outside. So the loop's closest to the outside. So on our first one, we want to go through both loops because we want that to be nice and secure. We don't want it to look like there's a big gap. And into our next one, we're going to pick the outside loop, so the one closest to the outside. Grabbing our other piece, going to the outside loop. If you're sewing it together, don't pull very tight because it will make your seam pucker up and we don't want that. Grabbing both outside loops. So as you can see, I'm not pulling too tight, just enough so it's snug. You would work this the same way if you were doing slip stitching. I don't think you could crochet the sides together because I think that will give you a different ridge and that will look weird. But you could try it and see how it goes. I haven't actually tried it myself. So we're going to continue on until we get to the end. When we get to the end, we're going to go through both loops on each one. Alrighty, so now what we need to do is gather the top, and this is where the magic happens, because at the moment we've got sort of this skirt that looks like it's going to fit a doll. So the magic happens when we gather the top. Now I'm actually going to tie this little short bit to that bit there, because when I gather the top, I don't want this seam to be pulled tight and look funny. So I'm actually going to tie a knot. I don't normally tie knots in my crochet, but we are going to do that. Now, it doesn't matter which direction you go, whether you go that way or this way, but we're going to work our yarn in and out the ends of the rows. And if you have a look, there's actually kind of there's holes on the end where our stitches are. See, I don't know if you can see that. I can see it, but I don't know if it's showing up on camera. There's a hole there, 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 there. So we're basically just weaving in and out. If you can't see any holes, just weave it in and out as neatly as you can. And as even as you can as well. That will make it gather a lot nicer at the top. We are back to where we started, and we know where that is because our tail is still hanging out. Then we're going to pull this to gather the top. And when you're pulling it, don't pull too tight because you don't want your yarn to snap, because that's bad. So poking that end in there, we'll sew that in after. We're going to gather the yarn. We'll gather the top, I should say. And just help it around. You could have used 2 strands of yarn to sew the top if you wanted to, but I've just used one. I'm just going to put my hand up inside the hat to... Oh, hello. Okay, so just sort of coax it around there. Alrighty. You're going to get that as tight as you can get it without pulling too tight on that yarn, because it will snap. Once you have it as tight as you can get it, go around the outside again. and as you go, pull tight on that. And see how the hole's closing up? And what you also want to do, this is really hard to show you on camera, kind of lay it flat, as flat as it will go because it's all gathered, so it won't go too flat. And sort of make sure it's like nice and neat, the opening where it's gathered. Try and make it as neat as possible because you don't want it making it look ugly, do you? Alrighty, so continue doing that until the hole is closed up. Once the hole is closed up, put the yarn through to the other side because we're just going to tie this off. So through to the inside. What's happened there? Make sure you're not gathering part of your hat. There we go. And to tie it off, just go through some stitches. Make sure you got a little loop. Go through the loop and then pull tight. Just do this once or twice. Just to secure that yarn off, and that will make sure that the gathered section doesn't come undone. Then we have to hide our tails, so I'm thinking we could just tie it up in around here. Try not to go through to the other side of your crochet work, just grab the stitches that are on this side. Otherwise you'll get loops showing on the other side of your work, and that's going to look a bit weird. So once you've done that for a few inches, cut off your yarn. Sew in any other ends that you have lurking about. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my video. Please subscribe as there will be plenty more videos to come. If there is a free written pattern for this video, it will be located in the description box below the video. For great yarn and lots of free patterns, go to www.redheart.com. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy crochet!